Take that back in the room and go play with it.
All sports, all plays. Yeah. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making the plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. Great high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, copies, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so type the laces. All sports, all plays. Network. All sports, all plays. Network. We on top of our game. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays.
Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to the ASAP Sports Network. You are watching another episode of What the Puck. That's right. This is going to be our third episodes. We are 3 episodes in now. First two have been very, very successful, and we are welcoming you back again for another episode. But before we jump into our topics here, I will go ahead and introduce the people we have. And, of course, tonight we have a special guest, and none other than Nate the Great. How you doing tonight?
Oh, I'm so excited to get going.
All right. And then, of course, we have none other than Greg, the Chairman Gallino. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. How are you guys tonight?
No, I'm really good. So my question for you, Greg, is where'd you get the whole chairman thing from, huh?
Well, I don't know if you guys noticed this on last week's episode, but around the 32 minute mark, the chair that I was sitting on snapped, and I kind of disappeared on the screen. So I just decided to call myself the chairman today.
The chairman, I like it.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to go back and kind of rewatch that, when you see me kind of just fade off around the 32 minute mark, you'll hear a little creak in my chair, and then I just kind of fall off. So that's where I came up with the chairman.
I like it. All right. So before we go ahead and jump into our topics, we do have a little bit of housekeeping we need to do. So, of course, we need to bring up our first sponsor, which is none other than Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry. So, Nate, go ahead and bring Suzanne Paparazzi Jewelry up.
Suzanne's Paparazzi Jewelry, 24/7 shopping available. 160920 is the code. Show her some love, like she showed us, from all of us here at the ASAP Network.
Oh, and look at this. Look who we have watching on the side. We have Mr. Will Polston himself. He is watching this episode of What the Puck. Hello, welcome, Will Polston. All right, and so, of course, our next sponsor, a little bit of that Misty Meadows. Go ahead and pull up that Misty Meadows. Oh man, that Misty Meadows, it just makes me want that barbecue sauce and that homemade jam and get those spices going that they have. It's sugar and spice and everything nice. Absolutely. All right, and then of course, we have our t-shirts. So for anybody who wants to win one of those ASAP Network t-shirts, all you have to do is like and comment and share our page. What we do is the more comments you get at the end of the month, we go ahead and we add up all of your comments, and the person that has the most comments at the end of the month, you are considered viewer of the month, and then you win one of those awesome ASAP Network t-shirts. Now, if you cannot come on and comment, but let's say you got a nice $20 bill in your pocket and you're like, I need a nice shirt, but I'm not sure exactly what shirt to get. Well, guess what? $20 for even less than $20 at $14.99 plus shipping and handling, you can get one of these awesome ASAP Network t-shirts. Now, I know it says anywhere from size small to 2XL, but here's the thing. You can get bigger than 2XL. It'll cost you a little bit extra, but hey, it's worth it in the end because they are awesome shirts, and we will get those shirts to you ASAP. So just let anybody know on the network that you want one of those shirts, and we will make sure you get one. All right. So for those of you who've been keeping track of episodes of What the Puck, you know that there's one topic that we talk about every single week. And of course, that one topic is our top 5 goalies from a particular team. And this week we chose to go with the top 5 Calgary Flames goalies. So with this one, I will go ahead and I will start with none other than Greg, the chairman Gallino, because he always gets the pleasure of going first in his top 5 list.
All right, thank you very much, Ace. The Calgary Flames top 5 goalies, definitely the 1 and 2 are probably the most noticeable, and then after that, it's kind of you could pick from about 5 or 6 different guys to maybe fill in the 3 through 5 spots. But on my top 5, I've got Roman Turek. Okay, I think he had a little bit less than a 500 record for him, but he was pretty solid in the crease for a while. And then I've got a guy named Reggie Lemelin, who was a really good defender. And then you're getting into the early years when they were the Atlanta Flames. Okay, before they turned into the Calgary Flames, and I'm talking about a guy by the name of Dan Bouchard, who I have as the 3rd best. And I put Dan Bouchard in there because he was kind of instrumental in helping develop this team. He had no real experience before when he got drafted in the expansion draft, and he had very green defenders, and he got them through many years of expansion. And so what happened was he was so consistent with his play in the crease that he was the only real mainstay during those years. And they had a general manager by the name of Cliff Fletcher, also known as Trader Cliff, who is now kind of one of the top dogs for the Toronto Maple Leafs. And what Cliff Fletcher did was he was always tweaking his lineup, always going out, trying to make trades, pick up guys, develop players and everything. So through the years, Dan Bouchard stayed in the crease and was a very consistent presence for him, all while Cliff Fletcher was trying to build a pretty good team. And he did build a very good team later on. Dan Bouchard later got traded in the early 80s, I believe. But he was a big part of why they became very successful, through the 80s and stuff, because their general manager was able to pick up some top-notch players and stuff during that time.
Oh, you're on mute. You kind of muted yourself for a second or something there. Oh, and he froze for a second.
I think
All
he
right.
finished his statement.
Huh?
I think he finished his statement. I'm not really sure.
All right. Oh, no. He'll be back on in a minute. All right.
Okay.
So, Mr. Nate the Great, why don't you go ahead and give us your top 5 Flames goalies?
So, what Greg says, I mean, number 1, number 2, they're kind of obvious. Number 1, go with Mik Kaprizov. I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's number 1 out of Calgary Flame goalies in wins with 305. Number 1 in shutouts with 41 shutouts. And he is number 1 in games being played by a Calgary Flames goalie. Number 2, Mike Vernon. I mean, he's the only goalie to have his jersey number retired in Calgary's history. Number 3 and 5, I'm gonna do something a little bit different. 3 and 5, it's a similar. They both have the same number of shutouts in the team's history, and that's 6. Reggie Lemon. Again, don't know how to pronounce his last name, and Roman Turek. with number of 6, and number Roman Turek was he was like really, really, really tall, 6'3". And then number 4, I'm gonna go with Fred Brathwaite. His save percentage is at .909, and he has a 2.54 GA goals. I think goals against. I don't remember the last day, and had 11 shutouts. He didn't have the best lineup. He had very poor lineups on the Calgary Flames when he was playing those 3 years. So that's my top 5.
Yeah, so when it comes to your guys' top 5 list, I pretty much had all the same ones that you guys have, because Mika was obviously number 1, and so when you look at that, you can't even really call it close for anybody else, because Mika is one of those guys that you're gonna always say is the number 1 Flames goalie of all time. And then of course number 2, and I put Vernon at number 2, and the reason why, the big reason why I would say I put him at number 2 is because he is the only Flames goalie to have his jersey retired by the Flames. So that to me is a big aspect of, you got to put him at number 2 because of the career he also had. And then number 3, Fred Brathwaite. So when it comes to Fred Brathwaite, and it's kind of interesting too, because you touched on a lot of these numbers that they had over time. The goals allowed average, the minutes played, the wins, the shutouts, and with Brathwaite, they were all there. The 2.54 with the goals allowed average, and then you have a .909 save percentage. Yeah, okay. Exactly. That, yeah. And I was waiting to touch on that, and that's completely okay. And then number 2 was Roman Turek. And for everybody who's watching, sorry, Greg's having a little bit of technical difficulties here. Maybe we'll get him back up here anytime. And then number 2 was obviously Roman Turek. And I don't know if you touched on this one or not, Nate, but I know he does rank 5th among Flames goalies in games played with 152, with a 2.53 goals allowed a game average, and then a .906 percentage on the save percentage side. So he's also up there. In the number 5, Ramo. And I had to go with Ramo, and I know it's kind of interesting because people would be like, how can you go with him? But here's why I can. I know that his inconsistencies there were kind of a big thing, and people would say, he didn't beat out a backup goalie, but when he played, he was actually really, really good when he played. You got to think, he actually ranked 2nd in Flames history in save percentage. And who do you think he actually is behind?
The one that I cannot pronounce his first or last name. Mika.
Yeah, he's behind Mika. He's the only guy that he's actually behind. He has 49 wins and 111 games. And I know it's not a lot, but you got to look at the overall save percentage. So he wasn't allowing a lot of goals, and it's not really his fault that none of his teammates were really scoring around him. So that's not really on him. And Greg's still having some technical difficulties going on here.
Yeah, can I say something actually on Mika? Why is his jersey not retired? Not retired. He's number 1 in all these categories, and his jersey number is not retired. That's confused. I mean, he only played. Actually, I take that back. Yeah, he's number 1 in all these categories. I don't know why his jersey's not retired.
Because he was there was some controversy around that. with the way he was actually replaced as the goalie, because they had a lot of goalies in their farm system, and he got replaced by a rookie, which to me, it doesn't really matter. You have to look at his overall career, what he did overall. To me, it doesn't matter what he was like at the end of his career. That doesn't matter to me. It's what did he do overall? And overall, he was absolutely the best Flames goalie of all time. And when you look at it, it wasn't even close.
Yeah.
But it's just because of the controversy that was kind of off the ice was kind of a big reason why his jersey was not retired. All right. So the next topic that we're going to jump into is we're going to talk about some of the current NHL players that we believe are basically locks for the Hall of Fame at this point. And we know that there's actually a few of them in there right now that are locks. And so I'll go ahead and I'll give my first one, and then Nate, we can go ahead and jump to you, and then you can give one or whatever. So the first one that I'm going to go with, and the most obvious, is Sidney Crosby. Everybody knows that Sidney Crosby right now is a lock for the Hall of Fame. He's played almost 1,000 games in his career. He's got 3 Stanley Cups, 2 Art Ross trophies, 2 Hart trophies, 2 Conn Smythe trophies, 3 Ted Lindsay awards, 2 Rocket Richard trophies, and 2 Olympic gold medals. The introduction basically writes itself on all the awards that Sidney Crosby has over time. There is no question that Sidney Crosby right now is a lock for the Hall of Fame. A lot of people say right now that he's the best player in the NHL currently, but he's not the best player currently in the NHL. But I won't get into that right now, but I'll tell you that currently Sidney Crosby is a lock for the Hall of Fame. So Nate the Great, go ahead and give me who you think is a lock for the Hall of Fame.
So this may or may not be a sleeper statement because he is young at 28. I'm going to go with Erik Karlsson from the San Jose Sharks. He is he has a .828 per game percent which is 8th all time, and he is a top 50 defender for points, and he's only 28. Top 50 defender of all time for points, for scoring points.
All right, so Greg, who do you have? One guy you have currently that's going to be a lock in the Hall of Fame.
Well, I think one guy for sure, I think, is going to be Patrick Kane from the Blackhawks. He's already got 3 Stanley Cups. He's won pretty much every award that you can imagine. He's won the Hart Trophy, the Conn Smythe, Ross Trophy. So he's pretty much done it all. You got Thornton out in San Jose, who should be a pretty good lock, and of course, if he can stay healthy, I think that Evgeny Malkin for Pittsburgh is going to be a lock too. He's a very tough to guard guy. He's got a lot of speed, a lot of strength, and a lot of size, and he gets around really well on skates. So I don't know. He's very tough to defend, and I know he's in Crosby's shadow a little bit over there in Pittsburgh, but I definitely think that he's definitely going to be a lock.
Okay, so now my next one that we have basically said is almost or close to the best player in hockey right now. You got to go with Alex Ovechkin, and the reason why, I mean, when you look at this guy, he's an absolute automatic lock on the Hall of Fame. It's not even a question. When you think about it, they actually basically called him a human wrecking ball. That's basically what he was. Like, he could just destroy anybody in his path. And when you look at some of the things that he's done in his career, think back in 2018. What was his biggest achievement back in 2018 that finally happened?
Won the cup.
He finally won a Stanley Cup. The guy has deserved a Stanley Cup, and he finally got it back in 2018. He won 3 Ted Lindsay Awards, a Conn Smythe trophy, a Calder Trophy, an Art Ross Trophy, 2 Rocket Richard trophies, and then, like I said, he finally won that Stanley Cup back in 2018. That was basically his biggest achievement. Now, there's a lot of speculation right now on the Alex Ovechkin part that people are saying there's even a chance. And when I mean a chance, people are saying there's a slight chance that he could catch Wayne Gretzky's goals record. Now, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, but they're saying there is a chance that it could happen. So, Greg, you go ahead and give me your opinion on that one.
I think it's going to be very tough, but I wouldn't count out the possibility that it could happen. He's a very good scorer, one of the best in the game, one of the best that this game's ever seen. And yeah, he did finally get that elusive cup. Now you got Thornton over in San Jose that's played 14, 15 years, and he's still chasing the cup. He's won pretty much everything that you could think, an Olympic gold medal and everything. But as far as it comes to Ovechkin catching Gretzky, I think it is possible, but I think it's going to be very, very close if he comes close to it. So I wouldn't count him out, but I think it's going to be very close because Gretzky is going to be very hard because Gretzky was in a world of his own. I mean, they call him the greatest of all time for a reason. And I also left out Henry Lundqvist too, who I think is going to go into the Hall of Fame. He's still chasing the title too, but man, he is a terrific defender for the Rangers.
So let me put this in a perspective of the numbers for Alex. Okay, so Alex actually has 706 goals in his career. He's got 572 assists for a total amount of 1,278 points. So it's right there. But he's still going to have to play a few more seasons to make it. And we know as of late, he's kind of been hurt a lot and he's kind of been up and down.
Yeah, his injuries is my only concern on that.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying right now, people out there saying that he could catch Wayne Gretzky, but can he stay healthy enough to do it? And can he continue to play long enough to catch him? That's going to be the question.
Yeah. I definitely going to play a few more years, but like you're talking about, it's all going to be a matter of if he can stay on the ice and put together some really good games. But yeah, his stats are right there. I mean, I think he's on pace or maybe just a little bit behind pace, but I definitely think that if he can stay healthy, he's got a great chance for it.
All right. And then when we look at Nate the Great here, Nate the Great, do you have somebody else that you would like to put in this list for Hall of Fame lock?
I went for a goalie on this one, Corey Price. That was my honorable mention. That was my honorable mention. I wrote down his name, but I forgot to write down what he did. So,
all right, Greg, do you have anybody else?
Besides the obvious with Crosby is, pretty much an automatic lock. I don't really have. I did have Carlson down there as well for San Jose. With Carlson and Thornton, San Jose should be tearing it up with those two guys. But I definitely think that on that roster they have 2 Hall of Famers waiting in the wings. So yeah, I like Nate had Carlson in there as well going into the Hall.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting about it too is that when you look over time for locks for Hall of Fame, people want to look at goals, they want to look at assists, and they like to look at overall points. But one thing that people don't often look at or just overlook in general, which kind of bugs me a little bit, is when they kind of overlook how good somebody is on defense. And so that's why a person that I said is pretty much almost a lock at the Hall of Fame at this point is Drew Doughty. And that was because of how good he was on defense. When you look at his numbers offensively, yeah, they weren't great, but he was one of the fiercest defenders there is in all of NHL. So it's kind of sad that we put so much emphasis on how many points or assists you have to get in hockey to be considered for a Hall of Fame. So Greg, I'm going to go ahead and go with you on this one to start out with you on this. Do you think that that's something that we often overlook? Maybe how good somebody is on the defensive side?
I think it is, because defense is a very huge part of hockey. And I think sometimes we get caught up in, who's a prolific passer, who's a prolific scorer. And, I think that in a lot of sports, we see that defense, in baseball, defense, pitching wins games, wins championships. I think that in a lot of sports, we don't really factor in a lot of the importance of defensive play. So, yeah, I think that it is an overlooked aspect in many ways in hockey, because you do have some really awesome true defenders out there in hockey, but they're not getting a lot of credit, but they are helping keep the puck out of the net and doing their part to help their team win games. But, sometimes at the end of the night, everybody just looks at who scored this goal or, how many saves, the goalie had or whatever. And a lot of people don't really factor in, well, he made a great interception, intercepted the puck, or, he made a great save late in the game, or, played great defense, or kept Malkin in check, or kept Crosby in check, or something like that. So I think that a lot of these guys that are very great defensemen often don't get the credit that they deserve for being able to kind of keep top name players in control, when they compete.
Yeah, and when you look at Drew Doughty, I think that the biggest thing that people are going to talk about with him is that right now, he does only have one Norris trophy, which okay, but when you look overall, what has he been considered for the Norris Trophy in his career? So he's been top 2 or top 3 for 8 seasons in his career.
Yeah.
So we have to look at the defenders too and give them a lot of credit for what they've done, and not just about goals and assists and overall points.
And the guy that I was going for, Erik Karlsson, he has 2 Norris trophies and Olympic silver, and he's doing all this. He also finished in the top 10 for the Hart Trophy 4 times. And like I said, he's doing all this, and he's only 28 years old.
Yeah, but Drew Doughty, like you were saying, Drew Doughty has that same thing. He has 2 gold medals. He's even got a U20 World Championship gold medal, a World Cup gold, and a World Championship silver. So he's added a lot onto his resume. So was there anybody else you guys had? Did anybody talk about Backstrom?
No, but I think that he's definitely, on pace for the Hall of Fame too. But I didn't talk about him. Did you, Nate?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so let's touch on Backstrom a little bit, because Backstrom should definitely be considered right now, definitely a lock for the Hall of Fame. And the reason why people might look at Backstrom and be like, he's not a Hall of Famer yet again, it goes back to that he doesn't have that individual hardware like you would say again, for people to basically look at him and be like, he's a Hall of Fame lock, because his goals, yeah, they're not really high. You know, he's got 243 of them. His assists, 684 for a total amount of 927 points. So the points are there, the assists are there, but the goals are not there. And I think that that's a big thing that people are going to look at Backstrom and be like, this is why he should not be there. But he does have the points. He's been over 70 points for the last 6 straight seasons. It was over 100 points once, and that was back in 2009 and 2010. So, Greg,
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and get your thoughts on this one too. What's your thoughts on Backstrom?
I think that he's a very solid player, and yeah, I think that he should be definitely. I'm not sure quite a lock, but I mean, I think that he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. I'm not sure quite yet if he's going to be a first-time ballot guy like Sidney Crosby or Ovechkin. But yeah, I definitely see him going in.
Yeah, but look back at when he came in the league, right? So he came in the league in 2007 and 2008. What's one thing that he has over everybody else from 2007 and 2008? Right now, since then, he has the most assists in all of the NHL at this point. That's more than Crosby. That's more than Ovechkin, and that's 13 years. So put that into perspective. He's got more assists than 2 of the top players in the game.
Yeah, that is a really awesome statistic, for sure. And so if he keeps that up, he may end up breaking the all-time assist record. You know, with that level of play. So I definitely, I'm very glad that you brought him up, because I think that he is going to be a Hall of Famer for sure. So
And to add on to one thing, you said that there's been 7 to 8 straight seasons where he scored 70 or more points.
Yeah.
Well, there's actually been 10 straight seasons where he's scored 50 or more points.
Mhm.
So
yeah, and so you look at
all the hard work he's done.
Now over the course of his career too, he's averaged about a point per game over the course of his career.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard as an NHL player to average basically a point a game. So, Greg, you're saying he's not a true lock, but you're saying he should be considered for it.
Yeah, I mean, from what you're telling me about the assists and everything, yeah, I definitely know that he's a Hall of Famer. I'm just saying that some players don't necessarily get in, on the first try or so. I know that some of these guys that we mentioned, like Crosby, Ovechkin, Thornton, they're first-time ballot guys. I think that Backstrom is going to be in there. So. I'm just not quite sure if he's first ballot, but yeah, he's going to get in pretty shortly. I mean, very quickly after he retires. So that's a no-brainer for me.
All right, Nate, what do you think? Do you think he should be a lock for the Hall of Fame at this point?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I get that his goals are not that high, but his assists are, so that means his points are. And I think, yeah, there's more to be put in there for Hall of Fame take, but points is something that a lot of people consider.
Let me guess. Are you a goals guy? Are you going to look at a guy and see how many goals he has in his career, and that's what you're going to judge him on for Hall of Fame status?
No.
Okay.
I look at a little bit of everything.
All right. How about you, Greg? What do you base when you look at somebody in the Hall of Fame or somebody that should be in the Hall of Fame? What do you base it off of?
For the NHL, I look at somebody's ability. I look at a lot of their speed, their skill, their strength, their passing ability, their defense ability. Everything adds up. I mean, of course, I do look at the goals, but I also look at the assists. So I look at all of it. I look at the complete package, because, like we were talking about with defensemen, there's a lot of defensemen that play excellent defense. They're not exactly lighting it up, in the points category, but they're out there and they're providing for their team, and they often get overlooked, like that Downey guy that you were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at it all, and yeah, I think that I look at their entire career and what they contributed and how well of a teammate they were on the ice, and goals, assists, passing ability, defensive ability, leadership, and just what they can put together all together. So
yeah, and another thing that people might consider when putting people in the Hall of Fame is face-offs.
Are you talking about like face-offs won?
Yeah, face-offs won.
I mean, is that really a key stat? I mean,
it's not a major
it's
stat.
Not really a huge stat. It's not a huge stat.
Yeah.
But Brandon put in the comments that he's talking about total points. Okay, and so I'm looking at that, and I'm definitely with you guys on that, because a defenseman that's not what a defenseman does. He's not out there to score. That's not what his forte is. His forte is to stop, shut down other players on the ice. That's what they do. And so you cannot put total points into perspective for somebody to be a lock for a Hall of Fame. You just can't do that. You have to look at what they meant for their team, how many goals they have basically saved as being a defenseman. All right. So now, going away from that topic, we're going to go into our next topic, which is we're going to talk about the current rule of icing. So when we look at the current rule of icing, what exactly is the icing rule? So what is the rule? So, Greg, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with you. What do you think about this rule that they consider icing? Because it seems like it's so up and down. It's so inconsistent when it comes to icing.
It's very inconsistent, but icing has been around for many years. Icing was put into play for a couple reasons. The first reason was I think that a lot of fans were getting disinterested when their teams were behind, or it was a close game and other teams were just kind of hitting the puck all the way down to try to stall time and try to just let the clock run out. So they put in the icing rule to make sure that wouldn't happen, so that you would have to keep the flow of the game going. That's one reason. The icing rule too, they tried to put it in for player protection too, because what icing is basically saying that you cannot advance the puck past the center line and past the goal line without touching it. So I think that if a player gets the puck and they shoot the puck past the goal, past the center line, and then they have it going all the way past the goal line, that team that just iced the puck has to touch it, or else it's going to be icing. So you ended up with a lot of collisions, a lot of races to the puck, and there was a lot of nasty collisions while other teams were chasing each other, and hitting the boards hard, trying to get to the puck. So that's why you see a lot of goalies raise their hand and everything when there's a potential icing thing. But the refs also don't call icing if you shoot the puck past the center line and then it's heading towards the goal and there's a defensive player there that could make a reaction and get the puck, but decides to let it go, thinking that they're just going to go take the puck down to the other end and have a face-off, So sometimes refs are kind of lenient on that because they think that if somebody could have made a play on the puck, they might let it go, because other teams if they're down there will let it go just to see if they can go down there and have a face off for the team that iced the puck. So
Yeah, but the big thing about it though is that I feel like the reason we bring this up here is because when you actually watch NHL games, it is so inconsistent with the icing call. That's why people are like, okay, what exactly is icing? When are they going to call it? It's almost like when you're watching the NFL and then you say, what's a catch, what isn't a catch, what's pass interference, what's not pass interference. This is almost the same way. It's because the icing call is so inconsistent, you just never know when it's going to be called.
Yeah, because sometimes if a puck deflects off of a player and ends up down there, they might not call it. They're not going to call it if a goalie leaves the crease to get the puck. So, there's a lot of times that they're not going to call it. So a goalie can leave the crease, on an icing and go get it, and that's not going to be icing. They're going to not call icing if someone shoots the puck past the center line, and then there's a defender that decides that he doesn't want to try to grab the puck, or field the puck. So yeah, there's a lot of questionable things going on with the icing rule because sometimes the refs call it and sometimes they don't, and it's kind of a split reaction as to when they're going to call it, because sometimes they let it go and sometimes they call it. And I think it upsets the fans too, because sometimes they think, well, that shouldn't have been icing because someone was right there, and then sometimes they do call it and it shouldn't have been icing. So I don't.
Okay, but let me ask you this. So when you look at the terms of icing in NHL, it's almost, think about, and I'm not talking about in terms of consistency of when it's called and it's not called now. I'm looking at the reason why the icing call was put in and everything else. When you look at it, think back, what do they do in the NFL when they want to end a game? They take a knee. And so in hockey, by icing the puck, you're almost doing the same thing. That's
Right.
That's pretty much what it is. And so I know a lot of people say, they need to do away with icing.
Yeah, and they don't. And when a team is outmanned too, like if a team is on a power play and the team that's shorthanded gets the puck, they're allowed to go ahead and do whatever they want. So they don't call icing at all on that, So if they get the puck and they're tired or they want to kill some time, they just shoot the puck on down there, every time they defend the puck. So, that's one exception too.
Yeah, I mean, but still, you're still at that point to where if you're going to call it for one reason, you should call it for all the reasons. It should be all the same, across the board. Everything should be exactly the same.
Right.
So, Nate, we haven't heard your opinion on this yet.
I'm actually with, because of the inconsistency, I'm actually with Brandon on this, and he just said get rid of icing. I honestly don't like it because of its inconsistency.
Yeah, but then you're going to get upset fans, just like it was before, because that's why they had put it in, because all the fans were so upset because of the whole thing, to where it's like running out the clock in football. That's basically what it is. And so that's why fans were so upset about it. Now, me personally, I would say do away with icing, because I think it's one of the most ridiculous rules out there. I freaking hate it. Every time I play an NHL game on PlayStation or anything, I get called for so much icing in a game, it's freaking stupid. To be perfectly honest, it's stupid.
I'm the same way.
I get called for icing all the dang time on that game.
Yeah, and it really prolongs the game too when there's a lot of icing calls, because then they call icing, then you got to bring the puck down to the team that the other team that the team that iced the puck, and they put it they have a face off close to their goal, and yeah, it's just a big time killer too.
And I know a lot of people are just going to disagree with me, but I rather hear upset fans complaining about there being no icing than inconsistent icing all over the place all the time.
Well, either way, whether the rule's in, whether the rule's out, you're going to get upset fans either way. So it's really, really not going to matter.
And I like the reason why they put it there, but I don't like the inconsistency, and it's just annoying.
Now, but the one good thing it does with icing though is that when it is in there, it does kind of cut out all those cheap shots in a way. It really does, but you're still going to see cheap shots. You're going to see fights, but with the way it is of getting hit in the back several times because of icing and everything, that's kind of why it's helped on that aspect. It's cut down injuries, but I think you're still going to see injuries regardless.
Yeah.
So I think we all agree. We understand what icing is. So before we go on to our next topic, one final thing, Greg, yes or no? Should icing stay?
I like the rule of icing just from a player protection standpoint, because you do have massive sprints to the puck, and it does cause a lot of collisions and everything. So it is kind of an unsafe thing when a team ice the puck. And you have those potential collisions. But I think that icing is so inconsistent that I think it's time to maybe think about getting it out of the rule book. Like most fans, I don't like to see a team, I wouldn't want to see a team at the end of the game just kind of hitting the puck all the way to the goal line, every few minutes or so, just to try to kill some time. But I don't know, it's too inconsistent. You have too many rules where a team that's defending on a power play can do it all they want. The goalie can come out of the crease and get the puck on a potential icing thing, and that gets, that's the refs let that one slide. If there's a player that a person passes to and they make an errant pass, that sometimes is given a slide too, even though the puck may end up past the goal line, which would technically be an icing, but a ref may not call it because he feels like that, it was intended for someone to actually receive the puck. So I don't know. I think it makes it hard on the refs sometimes to decide too, what is icing and should this be icing or not icing. So I don't know. I think it'd be a lot better if it was either taken out or they re-examined it and had more consistent calls on it, All
right, Nate, and then your final thing, icing stay or go?
I'm thinking it stays, but it's edited. Just giving a brief analogy, I'm terrible at everything related to organization, and so every now and then I'm going to have to clean things, organize things. So it's just kind of like the icing rule, or any rule in general. If they don't like it, it's causing us a lot of problems. The rules are going to have to be reorganized, redone.
Okay. All right. So now going away from icing here, now we'll go on to our final topic of the night. We're going to talk about the Canadian division that they have right now. And Greg, of course, again, we'll go ahead and we'll start with you. Should they keep the Canadian division that they have right now?
I would like to, at this point, see the Canada teams and the and the United States teams just start playing each other. I'm getting tired of just seeing, all Canada teams, beating up on each other and everything. Toronto is so close to the United States. I mean, there's no reason why they shouldn't be able to come to Minnesota or somewhere fairly close and play some games. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a disadvantage for a lot of teams in the NHL because you're looking at, come playoff time, you're looking at some teams that they don't really have a feel for each other because they're not playing each other. They're kind of isolated and excluded from everything. So I'd like to see the Canada division kind of be able to intermix with the teams in the States. I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting pretty tired of it. And I think that'd be really good come playoff time because, some of these teams in the Canada division aren't very good. So it's not like the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are a very good team right now, are really getting better by playing some of these teams. I think that a couple of the better teams in the Canada division would be better served to have a little bit better competition and be able to play all these other teams for their sake for the playoffs. So yeah, I definitely think that it's time to get everybody back to playing against everybody and not just Canada Canada being separate from everybody.
And you know what? I completely agree with you on that. I think that they should not, and I know why they did it this year. I understand why it's like that. But I really think that everybody should have to play everybody. It's best for hockey. It really is. It makes the matchups a heck of a lot better. There's so many different, more variety games you get. It's just best for hockey. And so, Nate, go ahead and give me your opinion on this.
I have two things to say about this. One, I think they will. I think they will update and get rid of the Canadian division somehow. Because next year, you're going to have to add in the Seattle Kraken.
Mm-hmm.
And then my second point is maybe keep the Canada division, but do like what y'all have been saying, where intermix and play other teams. Maybe Calgary plays Boston or Toronto plays Minnesota. Put teams from Canada play the teams from the U.S., but just keep the divisions there. When it comes to playoff time, that's where it's going to really matter.
Oh man, it's so hard though, because I don't even think you should call it, if you're going to get rid of it, or you shouldn't even call it the Canadian division anymore. You just shouldn't call it that. I just think
North, South, East, West.
I mean, yeah, and when you think about it, though, it's just, I don't know. I just think the matchups would be a heck of a lot better if it wasn't like that. But we know, but you guys have to understand why this year, why it's like that, though, especially this year.
Mm-hmm.
It's because of COVID, and they don't want them traveling and everything. So we get that. But in the future, it needs to go away. So any final thoughts on the Canadian division thing? And Greg, I'll start with you.
I'd just like to see, it's just such a weird year with the COVID restrictions and the Prime Minister of Canada not wanting anybody to travel to the States and everything. And I understand it to an extent, but I definitely would like to see it go away because I think it's just good for the game when come playoff time, they are going to have to face off at some point against these teams from America. So it'd be nice to see them already being starting to play each other. That's not the case right now, but yeah, it sure would be nice to see the Canada division go and have some of these teams from Canada start to play here in the States, and and then the teams from the States come and play in Canada like the way it was intended. So I don't know. I think to me, it's time to, get over it and get on with it.
All right, and Nate the Great, final thoughts.
We bring up this whole Canada division about how it's healthy. It's better for hockey if they play with an America team, but it's also better for hockey if teams from the West play the teams for the East. When teams in the divisions of the United States play against each other as well.
Well, yeah, but that's the whole point, because that's what it's like when you look at the NFL and MLB and everything. Everybody plays everybody. It's not, you're not just confined to your division. You're not just confined to that. You play everybody.
Yeah.
And
divisions would only. My point is that the divisions would only matter come playoff time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I still don't think that the division should be there. I think that they should do away with it, and I think they will, because of, like you said, because of Seattle. I think that that's why they're going to do away with it. They're going to have to do a bunch of realignment stuff going on, and I don't know how they're going to do it, but it'll be interesting to see exactly what they're going to do.
Yeah, that is.
All right, well, that is all we have for you tonight on another episode of What the Puck. But before we hop off, we have a little bit of Anchor that we need to do, and that's actually J-Mac does the trivia stuff. He's not with us tonight, so the trivia stuff will come back up again next week. But before we hop off, we do have a little bit of Anchor that we need to talk about, and say that Anchor is a great way to start your own podcast. And if you want to listen to the episode of What the Puck and what we talked about, once we download it on Anchor, you can, or I should say upload it on Anchor, you can go in and listen to it. And you don't even have to listen to the whole thing. You can just find maybe a topic you want to listen to and pick that's what you want to hear, and then just listen to it. And then, of course, you have your shirt. So people that were in the comment section and they were commenting and everything else, you like, you comment, you share. That's a way you can win an ASAP Network t-shirts. The most comments, if you leave the most comments at the end of the month, you win one. And you want to hope you win one, because these are awesome shirts. And then, of course, last but not least, if you want to purchase an ASAP Network t-shirts, it's $14.99 plus shipping and handling. You have a size small to 2XL. You can get bigger ones. You can. It will cost you a little bit extra money. And if you want one, just hit up anybody on the ASAP Network, and we will make sure that we get you one of those shirts ASAP. All right. So thank you very much for watching another episode of What the Puck. And Nate the Great, you have 30 seconds to wrap up any final thoughts you have.
I can't wait. We talked about playoffs earlier. I can't wait when it comes to playoff time to see who's in it and see how well we actually get to see when teams from the North play teams against the West, or teams from the South play teams against the East. Central. Excuse me. To play teams against the East. So I'm excited for that, and yeah, that's all I had.
All right, and then, of course, Greg, you got 30 seconds. Anything you want to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that before I was having technical difficulties, that my number one goalie, of course, was Mika Kupperson. And I just wanted to say that he was an outstanding goalie, very accomplished goalie, and kept them in a lot of games. And his claim to fame in Calgary Flames history is that, they didn't always have great teams. He did make it to the Stanley Cup once with the Flames, but they always said in Calgary that, if Mika's playing, at least we got a chance, because he was that good in the net.
outstanding goalie, and they always felt like at least they had a chance. Even against the best of the best at the time in the NHL, they always felt like if Mika was there, at least their team had somewhat of a chance.
All right. So that is it for another episode of What the Puck. So we want to thank you guys for watching another episode, and we will see you again for another episode next week, next Friday, for What the Puck. Everybody have a fantastic night, and we'll see you again.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a plays. You talking the game, get you through the days. Great eye in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace up the field, so tie the laces. All sports, all plays. Network. All sports, all plays. Network. We on top of our game. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays.